Hey, what's up, guys? Today on LocoCast, we got Nelson Cooper here today. We're excited to have him here. It's been a little while since we've seen you guys, but we're happy to bring Nelson here. Nelson's a baseball coach for Hardball, and he's also the co-owner and executive director of Hardball. He's a PNC corporate banker, relationship manager. He's Pittsburgh 30 under 30, and he has a bunch of other awards that are just too long to list. He's very successful, but we're happy to have him today. And so, hey, Nelson, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you, Kanan?
I'm doing pretty well. So today we'll talk about how you started Hardball and what is Hardball.
Yeah, first of all, thanks for having me. Pittsburgh Hardball Academy was started in 2020. We're a nonprofit organization that strives to enrich the lives of youth in the greater Pittsburgh area, particularly underrepresented youth through the games of baseball and softball. And so the term underrepresented for us means a couple of things. First, underrepresented meaning African Americans, black kids in baseball. So across the country, regardless of financial resources, if you're African American, it's very difficult to make it in baseball. There's just not a lot of us playing anymore.
Yeah, baseball is not really known in our community. It's usually just football, basketball.
Yeah, not
Baseball
anymore.
kinda gets isolated.
The World Series in 2022 was the first one since 1950, so a few years after Jackie Robinson broke the color barrier, that didn't have a black player in the World Series. So it's completely changed. I'm talking about black American-born players. So we did that. We started the organization to get more black kids playing the game. But then underrepresented also means families that may be single-parent families, like my mother was when I was growing up, or people who may not have the financial resources to pay to travel and do all these showcases and stuff like that. So that's why we started Hardball, to give those kids the opportunity, but more importantly, to then help them get into college and advance into careers. So we focus on baseball, but we're a year-round program that does mentoring for kids all across the board. So if it's financial education, if it's going on college tours, anything that they could need as a student athlete, we take care of through our program.
Okay. Can you kind of start off, for those that don't know, how exactly did the game of baseball and your life intersect?
Yeah, so my mom and dad met playing softball on the company softball team in Seattle. My mom actually played baseball in high school in the 80s, which is pretty interesting. So I think it was always in my blood. I was kind of destined to be involved with baseball, but played baseball growing up was the primary sport that I played. And my mom was one of my coaches, my grandma, my godmom, they coached me up and stuff like that. And then I played in a program in Seattle called Baseball Beyond Borders, which is similar to what Hardball is today. A little bit different, but similar.
I've heard of that before.
And so then I played in college, went to North Carolina Central University, played at HBCU, played in college to mixed results, which is more amusing than it was then. Now. So played, and then so after college started at PNC, and then got back involved in the game in 2018, and then started building Hardball.
So when did you start coaching? When did you start first coaching baseball?
Yeah, it was in 2018. So I, after playing in college, I was kind of burned out from the game. It was just college athletics is very stressful. It's difficult. I had some injuries in college, and just kind of over it, really. So when I moved to Pittsburgh, I was done with that. And then a couple friends of mine were like, hey, you should get involved. There's a program at the Boys and Girls Club in Shadyside, and I lived in Shadyside at the time.
Yeah, that's where we met.
Yeah. And so got involved with an individual named Brian Jacobson, who had been coaching for a long time, and we got involved and we were coaching a couple of recreational teams at the Shadyside Boys and Girls Club. And it's kind of, I went there for the first time and was like, I'm not sure what to expect. I'll help out once, and kind of got hooked right then in 2018. So just got engaged and involved. And I honestly did not want to do it. When I was like, fine, I'll go, whatever. But this is one-time thing, and then it ended up becoming a huge part of my life.
What do you think about that experience at the Shadyside Boys and Girls Club reinvigorated the game for you?
That's a good question. So I think that when I was playing, until I played on Baseball Beyond Borders, which was probably 13 or 14 years old, I was always the only black kid on the team. And then after that, I played for them for a couple years, and after that, I was the only black kid on the team. At college, it was different. Obviously, I went to HBCU, but there are a lot more white kids on the team than you would expect at a HBCU. And if you look at HBCUs across the board, that still continues to be a trend. Not at all of them, but at a lot of them. It's more than you think. Which is fine, I guess, but I wish our kids would get that opportunity as well. But But going into the Shadyside Boys and Girls Club, super diverse team. There are a lot of kids who are just hungry and they had the passion to play, but there just weren't like the resources to get them to that next level. And just seeing like the desire some of those kids had, like really led me to think like, what can I do to give back? How can I help them? And I've been involved with a few other like nonprofit programs like Big Brothers Big Sisters and stuff like that. And like all those things kind of came together at once. Like when I moved to Pittsburgh from North Carolina and originally from Seattle, you know, like I didn't really know what to do. I wasn't engaged with anything. And so starting with like Big Brothers Big Sisters and going to the Boys and Girls Club and getting engaged in those different programs, I kind of found my calling in trying to help youth.
Yeah, so you mentioned there wasn't a lot of resources in the community. Some people aren't familiar with baseball. What resource did you exactly bring?
Yeah, so baseball is incredibly expensive to play. And I think all youth sports are trending in that direction. It's a big business, and we're in America, so people are going to try to make money where they can. So if you think about it, to play the game, you need, if you want to actually compete in the game, you need at least 18 people there, right? You need 2 teams of 9. Everyone's got to have a glove that's $300 to $500 a piece. Everyone's got to have a bat that's $300 to $500. The cleats are $100, $150. You got to get a field, so you got to permit fields. Fields in the city of Pittsburgh aren't the greatest conditions compared to our suburban peers. So you got to get fields, facilities. So there's so much that goes into it. Individual baseball is $12 per ball. And I mean, you've played a ball, right? And in 3 pitches, you could lose 3 balls quickly just into the street foul balls, stuff like that. And so it's just incredibly expensive just to participate in the game. And then the way that baseball has trended now, so a lesson, right? You have to get lessons in order to get better, to really improve. If you want to be a college player, if you're not born with baseball is a skill-based sport, right?
Probably one of the hardest, I'd say, honestly.
I agree with that. But it's a skill-based sport where you could be incredibly athletic, like natural athletic, like being able to jump, being able to run, being super strong. But if you can't hit if you can't hit, you can't throw, it doesn't matter, right? And so it's a sport where the other ones, your natural athleticism can carry you to a certain extent. In baseball, it can, but you really need the hand-eye coordination. You need the skill development. Okay, well, how do I get that? I got to either play the game, which is expensive, or I've got to do training at these indoor facilities. Well, until we opened the first indoor facility in the city of Pittsburgh just this past December, the only places you could go are in the suburbs.
Yeah, I remember I used to have to go to Green Tree.
I would go like Penn Trafford.
Green Tree, you go out to, Murraysville, Monroeville, Cranberry. And a lot of these people, I think when I talk about this, people think maybe I'm ragging on them or something like that. But, like, that's fine. Like, they can do their business. There's people who are in the market for paying for that, and that's perfectly fine, right? Like, I work at a bank. I'm fine with capitalism. And if people have the resources and means to pay, then by all means, charge them, whatever. But for the people who don't have those means, that's where our program comes in, right? If you don't have the means, we can be that supplemental program to help them and be just as high quality as any of those programs that are out there. But kind of the point that I was getting to with that is our program, I can't remember what I was talking about.
Oh, the resources.
Oh, the resources, yeah. So the resources there, you have the balls, all these different equipment and things of that nature. But then if the kid really wants to develop their skills, you have to pay for lessons. Well, how much do you think a lesson costs for baseball?
Probably a couple $100, I imagine.
Right? So if you want to do 30-minute session, $60 to $80 for 30 minutes. What can you do in 30 minutes?
Learn somebody's name, do some warm-up stretches.
You can warm up, right? And so there are great clinicians around here who charge, and there's people that can pay it. But for most people, it's just not. It's not accessible.
Could you tell us, like, your biggest success story you had so far on hardball, like with a player development or?
Yeah, there's a few. I'll give you 2 different ones. Okay. One is a young man from the city, lived in Stanton Heights. He went to Obama Academy. He started with me in 2018. He was 13, but with Brian Jacobson, who started hardball with me, he started with him when he was 7 in Little League. So had been with us basically his whole baseball career. Before we had hardball, he was playing on different travel teams and stuff like that. He's the only black kid. They're putting him in right field and, kind of, batting him last and stuff like that. Comes in our program, really develops both on and off the field, like develops confidence, develops self-worth, but develops academically as well, ends up being the first Division I baseball signee and now player from Obama Academy since they renamed from Peabody in 2011. So that's one success story, and that's someone that was with us like from the beginning when we had the $2.50 jerseys.
Yeah.
The
The
cotton
t-shirts.
jerseys, the t-shirt.
The
We had the
t-shirts.
t-shirts,
That was
and that we like, hey, give it back at the end of the year. To now, we got these, kind of little bougie jerseys and stuff like that. That's one success story. Another one is one that's a continually evolving success story. A young man from Brownsville, Pennsylvania, Derek Tarpley Jr., who
I heard about him.
Brownsville is a very small community. And as we said, our goal is underrepresented. Okay, so most of our kids are from the city or Penn Hills, like pretty adjacent. A lot of kids are East End kids.
Okay.
But we have kids from communities that are further out where maybe they're the only African-American player in that community or something of that nature. And Derek was one of the few out in Brownsville, and Brownsville's a 2,000-3,000 person community. As under the radar as you could be, but amazing athlete. You look at him, he could be a pro in literally any sport you could imagine. So he joined our program a couple years in, and when we talked to him and his family, we said, the only thing we can promise is we can help you with opportunity if you put the work in. So he ended up being the first black player drafted from Western Pennsylvania since 1991 out of high school.
Wow.
Through our program. He ended up foregoing the draft, or foregoing signing the contract. He went to Youngstown State for a year, and actually just today transferred to Pitt, full scholarship to Pitt. And he's
Congratulations, Derek.
He's
That's
gonna be,
Congratulations, Derek.
Kind of shifting a little bit away from athletics, but I know you said that you guys on your website, your focus program, academics and really cultivating well-rounded young people. Can you kind of speak towards that, or maybe like a success story within that instance? Athletics isn't everything. I mean, I think your life is a testament to this. You can't play the game forever, not in a negative way. You can't play the game forever. You make a transition.
I like that. I like the way you were kind of scrubby. That's what you said about me. That's okay. That's fine. But you're a testament to the you're more of an academic type of player. That's okay. You need a GPA booster on the college team. So our focus program is facilitating opportunities for college and universal success. So nice little acronym for that. And so the three pillars of it are academic enrichment, social enrichment, and career readiness, right? So we tell every family, our programming year runs August to July, and we tell every single family that participates in our program, if you're looking for a travel baseball or a softball training program, this isn't the right program for you. Right, we are looking at full student-athlete development on and off the field, and the focus program is probably where we spend the majority of our programming throughout the year. So at our facility, the Pittsburgh Hardball Training Education Center that's in Shadyside, we have a classroom there.
Yeah, classroom in the back.
Where we're able to bring in guest speakers to talk to the kids about different careers, about different paths, if it's banking, if it's careers in engineering, whatever that is. So we have that avenue for them, but we also take them on trips. So when we go out of town to play these tournaments, we're not just going to play just for the love of the game so much, but we're going and playing in cities, in towns where we can do college tours and pair it with college tours and experiences that these kids get out of their community and go experience something else. So since we've been doing hardball, we've been to Louisville, we've been to North Carolina, we played at and visited Duke, North Carolina State, UNC Chapel Hill, different schools down there. We were at Virginia State this past year, Norfolk State, and we every year take a trip to Philadelphia and participate in a program called the Diamonds in the Rough program with a peer organization, the Anderson Monarchs, and then we do a trip up to Boston, get everyone on a charter bus, and do the National Urban Sports Classic, where they bring in teams like ours that are diverse from across the country, where the kids actually stay in dorms for a week like they're college students. There's career fairs, there's college fairs, they play games, but they also get to tour and see like the city, and it really gets them into that mindset of like, this is what it's like to be in college for a week. So we do a lot of stuff off the field to really help prepare them. We have a program that we do at the Josh Gibson Foundation, Chuck Cooper Foundation, Point Park University, where every Saturday, or one Saturday a month throughout the winter and fall, all the kids go in and do different parts like career readiness, career prep. So if it's resume writing, if it's, okay, have to get student loans. How do you do that? How do you do FAFSA? Just going through all those different steps that you need to be a successful collegiate student athlete. We're able to provide that for them. And then kids get scholarships at the end of the year if they participate in the program. So it's really, the way that we have got engagement is taking the athletics. They want to play baseball, right? Like that's where people first get interested, right? When they first hear about hardball, they're like, hey, I want to play on this baseball team. But you hook them with that, and then while they're there, you introduce them to these different concepts or these different things. And so if we have a guest speaker to come talk about a career in engineering, we have 50 kids sitting there. There might only be 4 kids who are interested, but that's 4 kids who potentially may have never even thought about that career and could become engineers. And we've seen success stories. You asked about a success story from that. There's a kid, Winston, who coaches with us now, but started out with hardball, went to Alderdice, got a full academic scholarship to Cal U, played baseball there. Unfortunately, had some injuries, so had to, stop playing. But now is interning at PNC Bank. So kind of coming full circle where you joined this program, kind of thinking I want to join the baseball team, and now he's 21, 22 years old and be set up to have a job and a career.
Yeah, that's super important. I feel like, especially as sometimes like African Americans and athletes, we get so hyper fixated on our life being, surrounded by sports. And then, if that opportunity ends, we don't know what to do after that because we've put so much of our time and energy towards, one direction. And when you have to pivot, you don't, it's not something that you're, previously used to. Kind of going back, you had talked about resources being a big barrier for, young African American, just, underrepresented people being a part of the game. Why else do you feel like baseball isn't really catching in these communities more so maybe than other sports?
I think that Major League Baseball, and they're trying now to be more in tune with younger people, but for so long, baseball's been a sport geared for older demographic and a white demographic, to be quite honest, right? And so the average age I forgot the exact stat, but it was somewhere over 50 is the average age of a Major League Baseball fan. Where you look at what the NFL and the NBA have done, there's people who have no interest in basketball or football that are interested in the NBA or the NFL.
Yeah.
Where baseball, like if you're not a baseball fan, you're probably not going to watch an MLB game. Besides if you go to the park because it's nice outside, right? And so I think that has started like kind of the baseball being such a sport where you had to be like there's a stickler. They have all these unwritten rules and things. It's not fun. Right. I mean, it's not a fun sport.
Being good at,
Yeah, you hit a home run and you flip your bat, then you get hit by the pitch the next time, right? Like that's not fun. That's just the way it is. Versus in the NFL, and they went the wrong way for a little bit. Remember when they didn't let people celebrate touchdowns and stuff?
The no fun league.
No fun league, and they've turned back the other way, and now it's back to where it needs to be. But I think that's a big part of it. Like, if you went to the average kid, black or white, and said, "Well, who's your favorite player? What's their personality like?" Like maybe if they're a baseball fan, like they like, oh, I like this guy because he has a good swing or he hits a lot of home runs or something. Like people like Ohtani or whatever. But like, what Major League Baseball player can you really see, or you can just in your head envision their personality or what they're doing outside of baseball?
That's very few players.
There's very few.
Yeah, a lot of pro players, you wouldn't even notice them if you seen them just walking on the street.
I feel like the newest dude, and he like somewhat adds that eccentricity to the game, is he's on the Marlins, Jazz Chisholm. Even he is kind of like demonized and penalized by his own team for being a person.
And the Latino players coming in and being so prominent now has added fun back into baseball, because they're very flashy, and they're very good, and they're very smooth, and it make it look effortless. And makes it's interesting to watch. So that's a part of it. But the other thing is, again, it comes down to price. Like, if you can't afford to play the game, or you think about youth football leagues or basketball, like it's so accessible to participate in those. In our communities, the adults are the coaches, right? And generally, all youth sports, the adults are the coaches, right? Especially for the young kids. But if the adults are no longer interested in baseball because no fun, how are they going to coach the little league team in the community when there's no adult that's interested in doing it, right? And then the kids aren't generally interested. And I will say the positive thing is, you have seen more. There's a trend, and it's spiking with little league participation and stuff like that. It's going the right way, and I think that's from like MLB leaning into like TikTok and like making it little like small clips, because there's so many little things that happen throughout a baseball game that are exciting, and then like being able to share that and really market that and like condense the game, because there is a lot of downtime in baseball. But it's less downtime than there is in football. But football does an amazing job during the broadcast to just eliminate. You're not really thinking about the downtime because they're showing a replay. They're showing the people on the sideline. They're showing Taylor Swift in the crowd. So there's different things like they're keeping your mind off the fact that they do 5-second plays, and then they walk back to the line for 45 seconds to do the next play, because there's other stuff going on where a pitcher throws a pitch, throw it back to the catcher throws it back. He walks around the mound. I mean, it's just dull.
Absolutely. Kind of, I guess, shifting a little bit back to like the business side. You said hardball had started with $250 jerseys that got returned at the end of the year. How did you go about scaling? And what does that look like for a nonprofit?
$2.50 jerseys.
Oh, my fault.
Yeah,
My apologies.
We both put $100 in a bank account to start hardball, and said, hey, we have a nonprofit, and figured it out, and kind of stumbled through writing grants and trying to get different people to support us. On the business side, how has it grown? I think we have had the same mission since we started, but we did not share our mission or brand our mission the way that it should have been in order to capitalize on potential funding, right? And so what I mean by that is we've always done academic enrichment and social enrichment. That's a part of what the point of why we started is, okay, we have a baseball team, but we want to really help these kids get into college and beyond. But when you go to a funder, and this is not just in nonprofit, but anything, you go to someone, they don't have 2 hours to sit and listen to you talk about all this. I mean, it's too much. You need to be concise. What do you do? Tell me in 30 seconds what you can do. And so that when you go to them and say, well, we do baseball, then we have academic enrichment, then we do social enrichment, we do all, it becomes very, it just all gets blurred, and it's like, whatever. Like, I don't know what you're doing. And then we were like, well, let's brand it and call it something. Okay, we have the Focus program, and it does this, and it is specifically doing this, and it is separate from our baseball programming. Now we have 2 programs, that's it, and it's very easy to understand. We do student-athlete development on the field and off the field, done, right? And so being able to then streamline and be able to tell your story in a way that is very clear to someone who's not involved with baseball, or maybe not even involved in business, but they can get it.
They can understand, yeah.
They can understand. How can you make it easy for someone to want to help you out, right? And so that really helped us open up the avenue for that. And then most importantly is having results, and then being able to show and demonstrate those results, right? So, okay, we've been doing this for 4 years. Like, how many kids have you guys had? How many kids have come through the program? How many have gone to college? And so being able to demonstrate that over, and so show the success rates and be clear about those has really helped us be able to access and tap into a lot of corporations around here that have supported us, and a lot of foundations as well, and then individual supporters.
Yeah, so we have some viewers that want to start a nonprofit one day. So like, what are the steps to get started?
Yeah, hire a lawyer.
A lawyer first.
We were going to try to, that's actually not true. That's not the first step that we took. So what we did, there's a foundation here in Pittsburgh, the Poise Foundation.
Oh, yeah.
They're the oldest African-American foundation in the country.
Wow.
And their CEO, Mark Lewis, is someone that I met at PNC. He came to speak to the African-American EBRGs about black philanthropy, maybe in 2016 or 2017. So I first met him well before I even thought about a nonprofit, but just remembered his name and always stuck out. Man, the oldest black foundations in Pittsburgh, that's crazy. And so when we started thinking about starting a nonprofit, I was like, I'm going to reach out to them. I mean, we're a black-led organization, and we're trying to grow. Like, maybe they have resources. And so he actually kind of gave us the rope. Like, we had this mission, we had the passion for doing something, and he helped us kind of set up, well, you need bylaws, you need to do it this way. And they provided fiscal sponsorship for us. So you can become a nonprofit in the state of Pennsylvania, but that doesn't mean that you're a federal 501c3. Then you have to separately apply
Yeah,
for
you
that.
get a fiscal
So we
sponsor.
became a PA nonprofit first. We had a fiscal sponsorship through Poise, which was huge at the beginning to establish credibility for our organization, because it wasn't, okay, I'm going to donate $100
To this guy.
to some guy, to some random
Some guy,
person
yeah.
that he started this yesterday. And it's like, okay, if Poise Foundation is putting their stamp, and they have fiscal and fiduciary responsibility. So every dollar that came in went through them. We had to write a request. Okay, we're going to use it for this.
That's what, right.
Right. And so then we did that for a year and a half, and then we hired a lawyer and got our own 501c3 so we could solicit funds directly to our accounts and stuff like that. And so we've grown. We're probably, I don't know how much, if I should say how big we are now, but we're bigger. And we've grown to the point where, you know, we have an accountant, and we have reviewed financial statements, and, you know, it's to the point now where the fiscal oversight, we have
Control of.
we have control over it ourselves, but we also are building a board and really becoming an organization that's just not, hey, the two co-founders run everything and make every decision. Like, we're trying to get a formal board and become like a nonprofit that can be sustainable long term without myself or Brian in the picture.
Kind of, I guess, a little shift into more so your personal life. What was it like? You said you had moved from North Carolina to Pittsburgh for a career opportunity. Shortly within your time at PNC, you know, you had said you had met Mark Thomas from Poise.
Mark Lewis.
Mark Lewis.
Yep.
My
Yeah.
apologies. Mark Lewis from Poise. What was it like, I guess, balancing being in a new city, new career, and this new venture within hardball? How, I guess, did you juggle all those balls and, you know, make sure that you weren't dropping one of them?
Yeah, so I'm originally from Seattle. So the first time making the big move was to college, right? So from Seattle to North Carolina was a huge shift. And my high school in Seattle probably so Seattle's diverse, but there's not a lot of black people in Seattle. There's a lot of Asian, Hispanic, particularly Asian population there. So then going to HBCU was like it was probably the best thing for me. It was a complete different experience, and really kind of opens your eyes, because when you're in the like West Coast it's a complete different environment, right? So like you can learn and hear about racism, but it's very different than the way it is on the East Coast or in the South. It's like a complete different, right? It's more behind the scenes there. Like, I'm not driving and seeing Confederate flags on
Yeah,
the
it's
side
not
of the
all
road.
in your face. Yeah.
Right, it's not in your face.
covert.
There aren't.
Yeah, PA, it's in your
Yeah,
face.
yeah, it's right there, right? Yeah, it's right there, you know, in the cubicle near you. But you know, the big move, that was the first time I had a big move, and then moving to Pittsburgh, I would say the first year I was in Pittsburgh, I was really lucky that I interned at PNC, and the people I interned with all started with me. We all started kind of around the same time, so like you kind of had this like group of
Community,
people and community and stuff. But that first year, like I was just mainly hanging out with them. Like, wasn't really involved too much with stuff. I really don't remember what I was doing then. I guess I was just going home and hanging out. I have no idea. But then I got involved with like the African American EBRG at PNC, then in Big Brothers Big Sisters, and just started like from one random person, like, hey, you want to come to this and get involved? And like, sure. It's like just saying yes to like those different opportunities that presented themselves. And there are other things I said yes to that, you know, I didn't stick with long term or wasn't something that was a fit for me. But I think that just getting involved with something really helped, like when I moved here, and kept me here, because I know that a lot of us, you know, Pittsburgh's not the friendliest
don't
people
stay
for
here.
black people.
A lot
I
of
mean,
black
that-
people get successful and leave.
Yeah, they get successful and leave, or they're successful and come for a job and like, I can't live here.
They can't do it. Yeah.
And
gotta be built
which is
different to live in
fair. I
Pittsburgh.
mean, it's fair, and I thought, for me, I wanted to be someone who could help make the change for that, right? Like, why can't I help change and make it better for black people, and in turn, all people in Pittsburgh? But I will say that's not everybody's calling or responsibility.
Yeah.
Like, it's not, you know, people shouldn't be expected. You're automatically supposed to come and help the community. Like, you know, you could make your money and just live in the nice suburbs of Atlanta and be fine.
Yeah, it'd be
You know,
fine.
you don't have to always. I mean, yeah, you should give back to your community, but like, I don't think that it's an expectation that every single person should
Yeah, I don't
have
think
to
it's
spend
everyone's
their life
calling.
doing
Us a
that.
lot.
Yeah.
It's just not their calling, and unfortunately, then it, people can feel when it's not real. I think they
yeah,
can
you can
feel
definitely feel
when
it
you're.
genuine. It's not genuine.
So
You talked about getting involved. Can you speak to, I guess, any other examples of you getting involved, whether it's leadership or just coming to a new community and I mean, you're a living example of putting yourself out there. If you don't put yourself out there, then you're not going to be known. So, what other
Yeah.
I guess leadership opportunities can you speak about that you've been a part of?
like I mentioned, there's a bunch of stuff at PNC within the diversity and equity and inclusion space that I did, from being involved with the African American EBRG, the women's EBRG called Women Connect. I was involved with Pump, so
Oh, yeah,
they run
Pump,
the
yeah,
Pittsburgh
Pittsburgh.
Sports League. The first I learned about that through being in the PSL. I played on kickball teams and I was a bad flag football quarterback, just really, really bad. It's bad enough they might have traded me to the Eagles.
Single sport athlete.
Yeah, single sport. Well, I played a little bit. So that's what I did. Actually, thinking back to what I used to do, I played a lot of tennis when I first moved here. I played in high school, played a ton of tennis matches in a league and got involved there. But
See, that's another sport that I feel like you don't see a lot of us in.
no, and the ones that do play are the best.
Yeah.
Venus, Serena,
Coco,
Yeah,
Coco.
they are.
Williams.
And that's how it is in
Tufois.
baseball too. I mean, you don't see the black
There's a lot of talent. in
third
baseball.
string catcher. That's not a
They're-
thing.
They're first stringer. They're not on the team.
Yeah, in baseball, most of the black players that make it to Major League Baseball are either all-star level players, or they were top prospects who were they were touted to be all-stars. There's not the,
They only
so
give a
much
shot to
that you-
mid-tier guys.
No.
Yeah.
And you see that, and I think, in the corporate world to a certain extent as well. I remember, and PNC's done an amazing job at really recruiting diverse talent and actually being serious about it. But I remember we used to joke, every black intern is someone who was a college athlete. That was a man. I'm like, do you have to
The
have
prerequisite.
is that the prerequisite? You had to not only have good GPA, but also have a huge, extracurricular activities and stuff. But they've done an amazing job since I've been there, really being serious about trying to actually hire
change.
diverse talent and promote diverse talent. And I mean, it's evident by we're a large bank. I shouldn't say we. They are a large bank and have two of the top executives are African American people, and most importantly, they're African American. They're not there because they're black. They're there because they were the
really
best.
smart, yeah. Yeah, they are the best.
Can you kind of speak to what has sports taught you, or what lessons have you learned from sports, whether it's being a player, being a coach, whatever it is, that you've kind of applied to the professional world?
Yeah, time management. Obviously, that's the key to pretty much everything. If you're able to just keep things in order, right? So I've got a full-time job. I'm a relationship manager at PNC, so I've got 30-plus clients that I'm working with, prospects. Then we have this organization. We've got hundreds of kids, different families, and a lot of things to juggle, right? So being able to just manage your time, and I learned that from playing sports in college and in high school playing multiple sports, but
Yeah.
in college you're waking up, you have lifting at 6 a.m., then you got class, then you got practice, homework, social life, all these other things going on, and being able to manage and balance that really was probably the biggest thing that helped me in the corporate world. And I think that for our student athletes, the other thing that we try to teach them, and it's a pillar of our program, the number one thing that you need to be successful to participate in hardball is communication skills. And that's not just for the kids, that's for the parents too. And what I mean by communication skills isn't you're able to go talk on a podcast. I'm talking about respond to your messages.
Yeah, a lot of people have a hard time responding, and that's
Yeah.
majority of
I see people's
Closing
phones, they
doors for
have
yourself.
thousands of unread messages. I'm like,
On people.
why? And I'll give you an example. There's one and it's not impacting me, but I always think about it. I remember there's an email. I actually still have the email draft in my inbox in my Gmail. There's an email from a guy. I was in the Academy of Finance in high school. So in Seattle, the public school system in Seattle is very strong, right? Where Pittsburgh, developing.
Yes,
Um, and we had Academy of Finance in the high school, and there's a guy who came in from New York, MetLife, I believe, insurance company, and he was talking about internships and stuff. And I was emailing back and forth with him, and then I just didn't respond to him, like, at one point, because he wanted to set up a meet, whatever, and I just didn't respond, and I didn't realize, like, the importance of that then. And one of my classmates ended up getting the internship with them in high school, and I didn't get it. And I always thought, like, I'm not going to let that happen again. And so I actually have the unread, or the message is a draft email from 2011 still in my inbox. It just reminds me every once in a while when I'm looking through there, like, make sure you respond to people, because who knows where things could have ended up. And maybe, everything's worked out for me, but you never know. That could have been that opportunity that could have took you to the next level, right? And so you just don't want to miss that because you can't respond to messages. So,
like you said, that was kind of like a lesson you learned when you were young and naive in high school. Do you have, I guess, a follow-up example when you're older where you got an opportunity and you took it at that very moment because you weren't going to let it pass you up again?
Yeah. When I was in college, I interned, or I interviewed for the internship at PNC. This was December 2014. Came here, did the interview, and so I was very resourceful in the interview. And anyone that's in an interview, like a Super Day setting, like, you have to think, like, the people you're interviewing with, those other kids that are there, other young people that are there, are your competition. And you don't need to be cutthroat. Like, I've never been cutthroat or in direct competition, but you have to give yourself an advantage. I remember they were just talking about the questions, and I was like one of the last people to go. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to look these questions up, make sure I have a perfect response, and that helped me out there. But anyways, I was coming back from it. I was back in North Carolina, and I went to the gas station, and I need to put air in my tire, and I don't really know how to do stuff like that. I still don't really know how to do stuff like that. And this guy was like, he came over, he's trying to help me out, and I was trying to be like, nah, I don't need your help, whatever. So he goes in the gas station, he comes back out, I'm still like messing with the tire, about to be flat, get it towed. He's like, let me help you out. So he's helped me out. He's got this USA Baseball shirt on. So I just asked him, I was like, hey, does your son, like, play for USA Baseball? And he goes, no, I'm the CEO of USA Baseball. I was like, oh, wow. And I happened to have a resume in the back seat because I just got back from the interview with PNC, and, like, was like, oh, well, I'm looking for internships, this, that, and the rest. Guy gave me his card and said, if you follow up with me in the next 24 hours, I'll take care of you. But if not, I mean, you're out of luck. And so I did, learning that lesson from high school, followed up with him. Ended up interning at USA Baseball the fall of my senior year of college, and still am connected to them to this day. With hardball, we brought our teams down there to North Carolina a few times, and they've been a huge advocate and resource for our kids. It all started just randomly meeting some guy in a parking lot. So you never know when those opportunities come, and you just have to take advantage of them when they're there.
And because you took that opportunity, not only did you got the internship, like you said, and impacted your life, but, still having that working relationship and all of the kids a part of hardball, they're in turn impacted. So, you never know, your response or lack thereof can either impact a ton of people or, cause a lot of missing out for yourself or others.
Yeah, and when you don't respond, it allows people to create their own narrative of what's going on. Like, if you just take a long time, so, hey, I sent them an email to ask a question about something that's been 2 or 3 days. Well, I guess my email's not important, or I guess they're too busy. Like, you can eliminate that by just simply responding quick. Hey, I'm on it, I'm working on it. Or if you have the response, go. But just being responsive really helps, like, eliminate any outside noise, because unfortunately, perception of you is reality. No matter who you are, what you do, like, whatever way someone first perceives you is probably the way they're going to continue to think about you. So if their first perceptions, I emailed this guy, never responded, that's not the best way or best footing you want to get off on.
That's true.
Could you talk about, I'm sure it's no secret to you all, but me and Kanan, we're not collegiate athletes. We're not athletes to any degree.
Hey, Kanan played baseball. He played on my baseball team back in the day.
Let me speak for myself then.
I was actually pretty good at baseball.
We'll have to get some highlight tape from you.
Yeah, I think Hillary
on
Clinton
Huddle.
deleted those with her emails.
You could look me up on Huddle. My batting average at all.
But since we do have, a former collegiate athlete, and we have a decent amount of our viewership have been people that have played, collegiate sports at any level. Life after your sport can be, I'm sure, somewhat jarring. You had kind of talked about the very strict schedule that you have as an athlete. What advice or tips, or being someone who has, been the athlete to life outside of athletics, how did you find your calling, find your passion, or really, I guess, redirect a lot of your time and your energy and, for lack of a better term, pivot in life?
Yeah, I think it was just, like I said, just trying new things. Like when I first graduated, moved here, like just trying to get your bearings, understand what's going on at work was a big thing. But yeah, you go from full-time school and you're doing 60, 70, 80 hours a week between school and doing your sport to just a 40-hour a week job. And, as your intern or development analyst, like you're not super, super busy because you're just, how could you be? You're just learning, right? So going from that to then suddenly you only have 40 hours and then you have it was like an amazing amount of free time. My advice would be, like, you have to find something and try a bunch of different things and just see what sticks, right? So like I've been on different nonprofit boards and stuff, and some were good for the time, but it's just, I don't know if I'm super interested in doing this or if I want to commit a lot of time to that. But I think just getting involved, like so many people want to get involved, but they just don't take that next step. It's like, I would compare, and I understand it, like I'm not criticizing it, because it's like me, like every morning I wake up and I say I'm going to go to the gym, and then I just don't do it. So I understand why people don't want to take that leap. I get it. Like it takes that step to actually walk to the gym that's 2 seconds from your apartment door. But at some point you just kind of have to take a leap of faith, right? And it's easy for athletes, like, to get back involved with the sport, to get back involved with the sport that they played in college. Give yourself a little bit of space, but get back involved in that. But I think if you are going to do that, and this is advice that I give to the young men who coach with us now. So we have a program where when they're in college, if they come back and they coach with us and mentor the kids and work with us during the summers, they actually get a scholarship for their next year in college. And the hardest thing to do from that perspective is to separate yourself as a player from the actual players now, right? So like, oh, well, when I was playing, I would have made that catch, but you're not playing anymore, so it doesn't matter.
Can't live
vicariously.
vicariously.
They live vicariously through the play.
Yeah, and so like you have to separate that and like, okay, like I get that maybe you were able to do that, but like how can you impart the wisdom to help them? And like it's really difficult. But the further you get away from it, like it's easier to kind of be able to remove yourself from being like you're still playing or competing with them. But another thing that I learned when I first started coaching is someone said, the longer or the further away you are from playing, the easier the game gets to you. Like, why can't you just hit the fastball? Well, it's hard.
It's hard to hit the fastball.
Why don't you just
That's
throw
why
a
you're
strike?
watching somebody else hit the fastball.
It takes hours and hours of practice at those strikes.
Yeah, it's hard. So I think, maybe it's not the best advice in the world, but it's like, just do something, right? I don't know, like try to join a group, do something, get involved with something, and then, I think I learned this from the working world. Someone told me this pretty early on as well. It's like, it's better to learn things that you're not interested in than to find exactly what your calling is. Like, how could you know that without experiencing different things?
You have to try a bunch of things.
You have to try just different things and get involved, and maybe join a kickball league, and you're like, I don't know. But maybe you become the greatest kickball player of all time and the super captain of all the team. You never know, right? You don't know what it is, but just get involved with something.
Especially, and changing a little bit, so like, especially just knowing you personally, how you started in PNC Bank, like you started in a different group. Can you tell us about like your journey, like your banking career?
Yeah. So I was a finance major in college. Like I said, I joined a lot of the things that I've done, like where I've ended up, have been like circumstantial, of just getting involved with something or something that wasn't exactly the end goal. Like I didn't have the end goal necessarily in mind, but just got involved, and then it kind of worked out that way. So starting, like if I go through the whole career thing, in high school I played tennis. The best tennis player was in the Academy of Finance. Me as a 14-year-old is like, I want to do whatever that guy's doing. So then I joined the Academy of Finance as well. So then I started learning about, this was right during like the financial crisis and everything. So it was really interesting stuff. So go to college, I'm a finance major, playing baseball and thinking that, oh, well, I have good grades, like someone's going to find me and come give me a job. That's not how that works. No one's interested in you, right? No one cares. So then you have to go, like, one of my friends in college, she was like, why don't you go to the career office and get like a resume and stuff? And I was like, I don't need to do that. Like I have a 4.0. I don't need, they're going to find me. And she's like, but no one knows that. And I'm like, okay, I guess that makes sense. Like how would anyone know that you have that? So she helped me get like a LinkedIn and a resume and stuff. So I went to the on-campus interview, and at PNC Bank was interviewing for retail banking, which is like the consumer branch banking. And I didn't even know what it was. I was so unprepared. Like I didn't know what that was. I knew what PNC was. I didn't know what I was like, well, I did the interview, like answered the questions. I knew all the finance stuff, but I didn't like look up that program necessarily.
I didn't know the difference either.
And I didn't really know to like look up that program. Like we didn't have like this huge career office, and they do now have like a more in-depth like career development office in the business school at North Carolina Central, but at the time, not so much. And so at the end of the interview, they're like, okay, well, you did pretty well. Like we're going to advance you to the next round for retail. I was like, well, I'm a finance major. Like, do you guys have a finance program? And they're like, yeah. And I was like, can I do that? And so then they connected me to the recruiter, ended up that's when I said I flew up to Pittsburgh, did the interview there, did well in those interviews, and then ended up doing the finance internship. And so I still, at this point, still didn't even know like all the different like internship business segments. And that stuff's more readily available now. Like people can just go online and look at it. And you could then, but it was just different. Like I don't think when I was in college, like the first thing I would have thought was to go research something on Google. But that was like my first thought, where now it's like any question anyone has, it's like immediately they're going to go. Yeah. And so started in finance and accounting, did the development program there, but that was like back office accounting, like budgeting, forecasting, and things like that, which was cool because I didn't really know any better. It was cool, and it's definitely a great career path, but I'm more of a people person. And it was a friend of mine at the time, like he was in a similar program, and he's like, hey, like look at the financial state, like you're in finance, look at the financial statements for PNC. I'm like, okay, what are you talking about? He's like, look at the business segment that makes the most revenue. Okay, corporate banking, corporate institutional banking. Look at the employee count for corporate institutional banking. Okay, it's like minuscule compared to the whole total. And he's like, what does that tell you? I get it now, right? Like, okay, so that's where people are advancing and making deals and making money, and that's like the movers and shakers. And so I didn't like have a destined path, like, oh, I definitely want to get in there from there, but I did know like, okay, maybe I should look at other opportunities. So I started networking, like through the EBRGs, networking and meeting people all across the bank, regardless of if they were in realty services, like real estate, if they were in finance still, if they were in corporate banking, retail, just meeting people all across the bank, mainly because, man, I'm working here. Like I should know what's going on, like making myself more aware of like how the bank works. And then through just different connections, like this person introduced you to this person, introduced that person. And next thing you know, someone's like, hey, I'm sitting in an office and like, hey, I heard really good things about you. We have a job opening. Here's the job requisition number. We think you should apply. So then I moved from accounting into underwriting at the time, which is like the prerequisite for getting into sales or corporate relationship management. So did that for a few years. I was doing financial institutions underwriting. So we were underwriting for, and to be specific, underwriting is doing credit analysis of companies, right? So we're doing their credit analysis, understanding if they're credit worthy in order to lend money to them. So I was doing that for other financial institutions. So is PNC going to lend to other banks, insurance companies, asset managers, broker dealers? So did that for a little while, then moved into our sports finance practice. So it was looking at all the major teams and leagues, and how are we lending to them and working with them on the underwriting side. Did that for a few years, and then just through work and continue to network, but not networking in a way of like, hey, I need to get this job, but networking in a way of like, I'm genuinely interested in what your group does. Like, what do you guys do? How does that fit into what I'm doing? Continued to network, did well, got your name out there, and then I got an opportunity to move into the group I'm in now, which is our middle market corporate banking group. And so I moved into that role in 2021. So I was 26 at the time. So got a portfolio of customers and working with them. So it was an interesting career like progression. And it's all kind of like when things started to advance for me is when I made myself more aware of my surroundings. Like, you can get a job and I'm this person doing this specific task at this big company, but being just aware of how the company works, like the inner workings of the different business segments, how they tie together, how does the technology team work with the finance team and the audit, all that stuff, and understanding that really helped me progress to where I am today.
How did you use that knowledge for hardball? You had spoke a little bit about, you and Brian were really able, boss up and upgrade hardball once, you were able to get more sponsors and things like that. So I guess kind of on the back end, you see companies, applying for money and things like that, getting lending. How were you able to use that knowledge to help advance hardball?
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, I think that it helps in a couple of ways. The first way is just understanding how to speak the language that these corporations are looking for.
It's a different language.
Yeah, and how to present yourself in a way that someone's going to trust that you are fiscally responsible with the money that they're giving you, which is a big deal. Yeah, right. Like, okay,
optically, I feel like in our community, it's kind of regardless of before you even open your mouth or whatever the case is, and kind of.
Yeah, I work with Nelson. I have dreads. Sometimes you're like, oh.
Yeah, like I have short hair now, but I had like a flat top, like higher hair for a long time. But there's not a lot of color, right, for a long time that I saw on our floor. But I think like the thing that I learned from the work environment that I've carried over to hardball is like most people that know me, like actually know me after meeting a few times, I'm very similar all the time. Like me with hardball is a very similar person to who's you're going to see at PNC with the clients, right? It's not like
Total
what do they call code switching?
Yeah, I still say the same thing about myself. I feel like I'm the same.
I mean, and I understand why that was necessary in the past, because they weren't going to hire you in the past. Like, you're just not going to get the job, and like maybe you got to do that in order. If you got to make, you have to make money at the end of the day, right? So I get it, like I understand. But for me, I just kind of am the same all the time and pretty authentic, which I learned if they can accept that at a bank, I think that the nonprofit foundation community and stuff will be able to accept that. But I think the biggest tool that I learned from working was partly my job, but the stuff that I did with like DE&I, diversity, equity, inclusion, is like being able to tell the story of why we matter, right? And like being able to do that from a young age. Like I was involved, I was the vice president of the African American EBRG a couple years into my career, and like being 22, 23, going on the stage and speaking in front of the auditorium and talking about diversity and talking about uncomfortable subjects. Because talking about baseball and underrepresented kids and these other programs charge a ton of money and we're not doing that, like that's uncomfortable to talk about. Like a lot of people don't want to address those things. And so I had that experience talking about that at PNC, and PNC gave me the platform to do that, and allowed those conversations to happen. So being able to take that from work and then being able to kind of have the experience, I wouldn't say swaying, but the experience speaking to and working with people who are older than me and having them, like getting them on your side and trusting, hey, you might be young, but you have good ideas and your ideas are thought through and this is something we can work on. That really helped me as well with hardball.
Did you have any mentors at the bank that helped you?
Yeah, there's a ton. I couldn't even list the amount of people. I wouldn't even say, like, I think a lot of people think of mentors as this one person like mentored me or something like that. I don't know if
it's a community.
Yeah, like a community. Yeah,
I think it's a community. There's a whole bunch of people that throughout I've been at PNC 8.5 years that have really helped throughout the time from the beginning. Like little stuff at the beginning, and I try to remember and try to keep in contact with people that have been helpful for me, because it doesn't really take a lot of time to just say, hey, I appreciate what you did. And I think it makes people really it makes them feel good, right? And like even if someone was a small part of your success or your journey, like they could have easily done nothing.
They could have been no part, right?
Yeah. They could have been no part, right? And so why not give them props? I mean, that's why I really don't want to say anyone, because there's probably, I'd say there's hundreds of people that have been helpful. If it's giving you a platform, if it's, hey, you should run for the EBRG president. Hey, I'm going to help you edit this email that you're going to send to an executive. I'm going to, like, little stuff like that goes a long way. But there's a lot of people that I've bounced ideas off of that have really helped me get to where I am today. On the hardball side, I mean, working with Brian is, I mean, I'm similar age as some of his kids, and he's been super helpful, you know, with developing and, like, ideas, and we work really well together because he has experience of running a business in the past, been in the corporate world, been working with youth baseball, and so is able to help really shape the ideas that I have and really help us grow hardball. So I'm the person who's usually out talking about hardball, and I have a lot of ideas and stuff, but I would say he was the brain behind, we need this in our community.
He's been in the community a long time.
He's been in the community for a long time.
Yeah, he was my coach when I was 8 or 7 too.
Yeah, and he's got 6 kids, and I mean, one kid was drafted, playing in the minor leagues now. But Brian, white guy, right? But he's from the community. You guys got to fix that. You guys are slipping. But look at this beautiful. Where is that?
What is it?
That's when Kanan gets his bonus check. That's where he's going to be vacationing at. But Brian, you know, you see pictures of, or you talk about, like, allies, right? Like, you talk about, like, white allies and things of that nature. Sponsors, advocates. But he's someone who's not doing it for any personal gain, right? Like, I don't know. He's not getting. Neither of us we're not getting paid, right? We're doing this because we like to do it. And like to help the community, but he's been doing it forever. And, you know, when we connected, we were able to, like, put our forces together to really grow this. But you look at him, like, back in the day, like, he has pictures of his little league team where they're in Stanton Heights and there's 14 kids and there's 12 are black and there's 2 white kids on the team. And it's just crazy to think as recent as the 70s, 80s, 90s, it was completely the opposite way in the city, where now, I mean, you rarely, besides our teams, you'd rarely see that.
Baseball. Even when I played Little League, the Homewood still, they said the Homewood Community Association. We had like 5 teams in Homewood, and there was 2 teams in Braddock. There's like 7 teams in Wilkinsburg. So it kind of,
See, I don't even know if, like, there was a youth baseball team in McKeesport, honestly.
Yeah,
there was a team.
League.
Yeah,
McKeesport. Yeah.
You had mentioned, so, like, obviously as a nonprofit, you don't get any financial gain from this. So what keeps that fire within you, to keep doing hardball? I mean, it's a lot of, time, energy, traveling, and things like that. So what keeps that fire invigorated for you?
Seeing the success stories of, like, the kids is the most, that's the coolest part. Like, seeing someone that you pour a lot into and then they get accolades and go on and succeed. So the individual kids is, like, that's the best part that keeps you going. But something that's neat now that I really like, that's keeps you invigorated in doing it, is I know, or we've seen kids, like, with a hardball shirt on, who, I remember we were at a tournament last year. I was like, oh, like, you've heard of hardball? He's like, oh, yeah, I know such and such on hardball. And I was like, oh, do you know any of the coaches or anything? Like, no. And so it's like, now it's becoming a real thing.
Bigger
like,
than you.
It's bigger than us, which is the goal. We hired our first full-time employee, someone who, if we had hardball around when he was a kid, would have likely participated and identifies with our kids who, from the same communities, from the neighborhood. So we're growing, right? And seeing that growth keeps me engaged and wanting to do more.
That's awesome.
And also outside of hardball, you're known for helping, like, underprivileged and minorities in PNC. You tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I've always thought of trying to help others that look like me. Not that I don't want to help people who don't look like me. Like, I help people ask for my help, I'm gonna help.
He
them.
really does help anybody.
Anyone who that wants help, right? And, like, across the bank, there's people that reach out, and, like, I'm happy to mentor and stuff, because I don't view other people necessarily as, like I mentioned earlier in the interview, they are your competition, but I'm confident in myself.
Yeah, I'm confident
that
in myself.
Like, if I do what I'm supposed to do, I'll be fine. And so it would be great if both of you you guys both work at PNC. I mean, we met when you were an intern. We met, when you were playing. But, like, I'm on the board of Fame, and you guys both went through Fame. Like, it would be great if both of you became the executives, the highest, most executives at PNC. Like, that has nothing to do with, like, that would make me happy to see other people be successful. And so, like, I've done that a lot since I started, just helping people navigate, like, the corporate world, particularly us coming in, young black men, into a corporate environment, how to handle yourself, how to be authentic to yourself, how to know when do you push on certain things, when do you let certain things slide, which I've learned over time. And then, like, if you're able to impart some of that to other people and it helps them become successful, like, why wouldn't you do that? Is the way that I look at it. Like, I'd love for us to continue to get opportunities, but I want to be clear, like, you see some of the backlash now with the DE&I stuff and stuff that some people who tend to be more to this side, I don't know at the camera, to this side than that side, meaning right wing, would say about, like, DE&I. And it's not like we're not asking for special privileges. We're just saying, can we get the same opportunity? Just leveling the playing field. And that's what we talk about with hardball all the time, leveling the playing field, opportunity access. I don't want any kid in hardball to get recruited because they're black. What is that? That doesn't do anything. I want them to just get a fair chance to have the same opportunities.
Get the same
right?
looks,
To get the same looks. Their dad may not be connected to the agent who knows the coach at Wake Forest or knows the coach at North Carolina State or whatever.
Yeah, knows the email. They can send the
And they can send the email. They can send the video. They can make a $50,000 contribution to the boosters for the NIL fund, stuff like that. Okay, we don't have that opportunity. Can we just be judged on our talent, our ability, or can we give them the training, opportunity, access so they can get to that level where they're competing? And then if the playing field's leveled, then hey, may the best man win. But we know, I mean, it's not level. So you need programs like that in order to eventually get to a level playing field. Like, I would love to not have to do hardball. Right? That it could just be every program was diverse and kids from all backgrounds. It didn't matter, but unfortunately, that's just not reality. So until then, we'll be doing what we're doing.
That kid, he's good, but he's raw.
And that's what they say. He's raw.
Yeah, that's what they love to say in baseball.
He's raw, talented. I mean, yeah, he is black. Yes, that's correct. He's black, but he's talented too, and he can play. So, but
definitely, it's awesome to hear about like folks like yourself, like Brian, who are trying to do things bigger than baseball, even though baseball is a focus. You guys, I don't even think you've really touched on this, but Nelson's program also includes women too. It's not just for men as well. I mean, it's really for underrepresented people of all different walks, and the fact that you care about them more than just an athlete. Their well-roundedness as an individual. Speaking of that, though,
can I speak to softball real quick?
Yeah, definitely.
So on that note of what you said, caring more about them and actually being intentional about things, we didn't start softball until late into 2023. September 2023 was our first softball clinic, because we didn't want to do softball because I could get an extra $5,000 on the grant by saying we have softball. Like, we wanted to make sure if we're going to do it, we have the right coaches, we have the right and we do the programming the right way, and it's not just an add-on program just so you can put a picture on the website. Like, that doesn't do anything. And so what we're doing now is we did clinics throughout the fall and winter. What we're planning to do this upcoming programming year is do like a cohort of girls. Like, we surveyed them and these girls in community, like, what do you need? And a lot of the high school girls that are the target demographic what we're looking for, they're like, we have teams, but we don't have access to extra training and coaching because it's so expensive. We don't have access to college recruiting, like going to showcases or doing the financial education, all the focus program stuff. So we're going to do a cohort of those girls, and we're going to help them, like, really. And I think our plan would be, right, so you have that cohort of girls. Maybe they're playing on a different team because we don't have a hardball softball team, and it's hard to take them. If you're 17, you're pretty good, and you're on an elite team, it's hard to then say, hey, come to the startup team.
Uproot you and all that.
And we've kind of learned that the baseball and softball youth worlds, they're not, like, intersected so much. Like, the top baseball teams don't usually have a softball arm either. They're separate. So, okay, if they're on a different team, like how can we help them with the core of our mission, which is helping them get into college and future success, right? And it's bigger than just playing on the field. So, can we do all of the stuff off the field and provide them the training and opportunity to access, without necessarily having a team to start? And then, okay, maybe you get 2 or 3 girls that really helps them. They go to college, they commit, they put it on Instagram, they put it on social media. Then some other girls see it and they see, hey, she was from McKeesport and she committed. Why can't I do the same thing? And then you begin to grow that organically, and there's more interest from the younger girls. Then you can start a team. So that's like our plan to build the softball part of our organization.
Okay, so already established and still growing and trying to add new things. I like to hear that.
Yeah.
Well, Nelson, we want to thank you for coming on. Nelson's actually so committed. He came straight from work to the podcast, and we actually need to wrap it up because he has practice in 4 minutes.
Oh, is it real? Oh,
yeah.
Man.
So we really appreciate you coming on, Nelson. We're going to have to have you back on because I feel like we didn't get to touch on everything.
Yeah, I'm happy to do it. But, I'm really – what you guys are doing is exactly, what more people should be trying to do, like enterprising, making things happen. And, like, it really makes me – I sound like an old man. I'm not that much old. But it makes me really proud that, hey, I'm on an organization like Fame, and then it's producing people like you that are exemplary of what kids in our community can be. So, this is great, and I really appreciate the opportunity.
No, definitely. Between organizations like Hardball and Fame, it's proof that there's talent everywhere. It's just all it needs is a little bit of resources, a little bit of watering, and, you never know what it can grow into. But, Nelson, we really appreciate you coming on. We appreciate you sharing your wisdom, both about, your college athletic story, professional advice, just being a good person to be able to, elevate yourself, elevate other people. And so thank you for coming on the pod.
Yeah, appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, Nelson.
Yeah, for sure.
And with a little bit of time left, any quick things you want to shout out about Hardball, any events, anything like that?
This is water, by the way. Yeah, so our season is underway right now. If you want to follow us on social media, you can either search Pittsburgh Hardball Academy or on X and Instagram. It's at PGH_hardball. Check out our website, YouTube page. We just recently released an impact video to kind of show all the things that I've talked about actually in action and from the voices of our student athletes and their families. So check that out. It's on YouTube. Just search Pittsburgh Hardball Academy impact video. But we're always looking for sponsors, organizations that want to get involved with our mission or people that want to be involved with our mission. And if you have any ideas or feedback, we're happy to have to hear it. So you got kids that in the community that are interested or anybody, please reach out.
Yeah, thank you guys for tuning in today. We had Nelson. He's living his craziest dreams through Hardball and PNC. See you guys.